Today marks the 60th anniversary of the introduction of Australian citizenship. It was on this day in 1949 that the Nationality and Citizenship Act was enacted. Prior to that date, most Australians were British subjects, and many, in fact, indeed remain that way today. Citizenship is, I guess, it's a double-edged thing. It's a right, it's a responsibility, it's a great honour. I think proudly, I know we all do, of our Australian citizenship, and we think very fondly upon those who we accept into the country as citizens, and we also hold it with enormous esteem, and we want it respected accordingly. So it's a hot topic, the issue of citizenship and immigration. Today there will be ceremonies around the country to celebrate all of this. I just hope in all the celebrations we don't lose context of the fact that there are still some enormous challenges when it comes to who gets this and who doesn't, who is deserving of it, who we invite into this country, who arrives here by their own means. And it often comes down to the language, this sort of constant assertion that everyone who arrives in Australia, be it by boat or be it by any means, not through the appropriate channel, is an asylum seeker as opposed to an illegal arrival. And even yesterday in the Parliament, this continues to burn along. This is a topic that people are talking about everywhere, and whilst they won't talk about citizenship necessarily, they talk about those who arrive here at the country seeking citizenship. The latest boat arrival, carrying 58 people, 4 crew, discovered off the Western Australian coast yesterday, the 4th intercepted in a little over a week. You're getting this? 4th in a week. And the Western Australian Premier, Colin Barnett, used the latest arrival to question Labor's border protection policies. We'll do a bit of that ourselves this morning. So we invite today the Minister for Citizenship, Chris Evans, Senator Evans, on the program to talk about this. Citizenship is an important thing that is very significant to us, and hence why people get their backs up when they think it is being challenged. The Minister is on the phone. Good morning to you. Thanks for your time.
No worries, Jason.
A significant day, 60th anniversary. It's sort of strange, isn't it, when we think of ourselves, even, with the bicentenary that passed in 88 and then the celebration of the centenary of Federation, and Australian citizenship really only kicked in 60 years ago.
Yes, well, I think up until then we thought of ourselves as British, despite Gallipoli and everything else. This was the turning point where people said, no, we are an independent country, we ought to think of ourselves in that way, and we ought to think of ourselves as citizens of Australia, not citizens of the UK.
I don't think anyone would say we hand it out willy-nilly, although sometimes there's an impression that it's a bit too easy to become a citizen of this country for all the privileges that come with it. We give it out. Do we take it back ever?
We do under very exceptional circumstances, but once one's a citizen, you're entitled to full rights. I think you make a good point, though, and one of the things we're trying to emphasise today is it's about rights and responsibilities. It's a contract, if you like, that you make to become part of Australia. Part of that is to uphold our laws and vote and do all those things about responsibilities, but also it gives you tremendous opportunities.
Yesterday we did a broadcast from the Flemington markets in Sydney, and you may be aware of it and its background. It's a very heavy Italian community there, and I was sitting around with a lot of blokes that were first and second generation that were there, and they just speak so fondly of this wonderful country, and they don't ever think of Italy as being home or whatever. They are Italian by heritage, but that's about it. They love all the country offers. And the thing that really struck me there is it's the issue of assimilation. The Italians, the Greeks and other nationalities have come to this country and decided, and so, I mean, with respect to you, those of British background, come to this country and decide, I'm an Australian, that's me. Assimilation seems to nowadays be a dirty word we don't ever want to talk about. It's like it's an insult to say to someone they should assimilate.
Yeah, look, some of these words have become loaded over the years, Jason. I don't get too hung up on the words. The reality is we've had 4 million people take out citizenship, people who weren't born here, who want to become Australians and have become Australians. And some of the great Australians have been people who came here after the war, the Jewish people, Italians, Greeks, Europeans, as you say, and then we had people from Vietnam, etc. If you go anywhere in the world, we get a bit negative about this sometimes in Australia, but you go anywhere else in the world and they all tell you they think we do it better than any other country in the world. We've actually integrated people, brought people in and had them settle successfully better than anywhere else in the world. So while we sometimes focus on the negatives, we've had 4 million people become citizens and had greater social cohesion, if you like, than almost anywhere else.
Well, we can say focus on the negatives. I focus on the realities. You go to some other countries and you look at Britain and what's gone on to Britain with its immigration attitude, where it's all come all in.
Yep.
We in Australia, we've got something pretty special. We know that. There is a perception in the community, and no politician ever wants to seemingly address this, that we are inviting the wrong kind of people to Australia. Now, you can say that's coded language, but you know exactly what I mean. You would hear it from your constituents as well, that we're inviting the wrong mix of people to Australia, and too often, not with respect to the nation, but with respect to the people who are showing up here wanting to be settled.
Well, I don't think that's right, Jason, and the mix has changed a bit over the years, but still the largest groups are people of British background. We've had an increase in South Africans, quite a large increase in Indian people over recent years, but so the mix does change. It's partly driven by bringing in skills into the workforce, but we've had a fairly stable set of contributing countries in many ways, and as I say, we've done it pretty well. The first arrivals always do it a bit tougher. We were pretty hard on the Italians and the Greeks in the 16s and 70s. We used some pretty unfortunate names about those people then. Now we wouldn't think about calling an Italian some of the names we did those days, and we think of them all playing Aussie rules football and running successful businesses and being doctors and lawyers, and so it's partly just takes a bit of a while for each group to settle in, if you like.
But when the track record says that we invite people from European nations, and you mentioned Italians and Greeks and people of Jewish descent and others, you invite them to this country and they're fitted in so quickly. We have groups of people that live in enclaves in my city and in cities all around Australia that seemingly are not being encouraged, and it's maybe not by their decision, but not being encouraged, as was the case with the Greeks and the Italians and the others you mentioned, to assimilate, to fit in, to become Australian and to become it, not to bring the culture that you had, that you left, that for whatever reasons you abandoned, to move into Australia and just keep it going just on a smaller scale. There is a sense that government is not prepared to confront that.
Yeah, I don't think that's right, Jason. I'm always prepared to confront these issues. I think sometimes we look rosily back at how easy it was for particular groups coming in. So they did it tough at the start. They tended to all live in the same suburbs at the start. You can go anywhere in Melbourne and Sydney and you still have areas where there's a lot of Italian or Greek influence or English influence. So I don't think sometimes people are balanced about that, but there's no doubt that where people settle and how they settle is important. One of the things we've got to address is I think people go often to where the cheapest housing is when they first arrive, and we've seen a lot of settlement of groups in the same areas, and I think we can do better at that. We're seeing more people settle in regional Australia. One of the great things that's happened actually is regional Australia is so short of people. They've been really encouraging of new arrivals, and we're seeing all sorts of quite positive things going on there.
Yeah, but I'll accept that, and you may have the statistics to back that up, but anecdotally you go to pockets of Sydney, to the big cities, to Melbourne as well. You wander along, and and I do. I mean, developers, for example, they want to put up a new building. They have to go through forests of red tape to get permits, environmental impact studies. But governments bring in people from all over the world, and seemingly just say, "There, bingo, in the community, go for your life." There is no. It seems. There's no care taken afterwards to make sure we're getting people into an environment where they will fit into mainstream Australia. In other words, we seem to be comfortable with saying it's all right if this is the area of people of this particular background, Middle Eastern communities, this is the Asian area, this is this. And you come to Sydney and other big cities, you know it well, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's true of most big cities around the world, Jason, but I dispute the fact we don't do a lot of work with people after they arrive. We do, and that's partly what my department does.
Do we succeed, though?
The social cohesion in Australia has been good. We've accepted bits of everyone's culture. We value that now, but we encourage people to not only keep faith for their culture, but to become Australian. And what Australia is different now to what it was in 1949.
Yeah, no, sure, but that doesn't mean what we did in 1949 was wrong.
No, but I'm just saying we've changed. The fact is we've taken the best bits, if you like, from all the cultures that have come here.
Right.
And I think it's one of our strengths. But I do accept the point about settlement. I think we do have to ensure people are settled more broadly and are allowed to move in the community much more quickly.
Well, we don't tolerate enclaves, and we shouldn't. Thank you for your time this morning, Minister.
My pleasure, Jess.